Hello everyone, this is Taylor Edrington with Royal Gorge Anglers in Canyon City, Colorado, the Arkansas River's oldest fly shop and guide service and only Orbis endorsed outfitter on the Arkansas. Thanks so much for viewing. We are in April now, folks, and a lot of great things going on. Today, our report on April 7th, we are not far from caddis activity. We've had closed Brachiocentrus cases up and down the river for a little bit over a week now, and with water temperatures warming and warming trend in the overall weather, we look for some starting Caddis Hatch activity here in the next week in Canyon City and Lower Bighorn Sheep Canyon. So keep up to date with our daily reports, and I am going to spotlight some caddis, techniques and fly selection here in this report later on. Right now, what we're looking at least for the next week, is a continuation of some great nymphing and BWO hatch activity on really the entire watershed from Canyon City upstream. Still seeing some really good streamer activity as well, the hatch activity within the BWO category has been very, very good. Regardless of overcast, we seem to be experiencing pretty solid hatches in the afternoon, especially in Bighorn Sheep Canyon. As far as nymphing is concerned, we're still focusing on stoneflies as lead flies, going a little bit darker on those stonefly imitations. Some of the patterns that I like right now, as a lead stonefly type of representation, number one, the 20-incher. 20-incher is pretty hard to beat. I almost always spotlight it because it is a great, great pattern. A newer pattern that we've done very, very well with is the Anatome in that more dark hare's ear color. That fly in a size 10 and 12 has been very, very productive. And then another great fly, just a little bit lighter than those other two, is the poxyback hare's ear. That has been a very productive pattern as well as a stonefly imitation. We're running typically 3 flies, at least most of our guides are Western rigs. If you're Euro nymphing, you can still run 3 flies, run that heavy stonefly as your point fly, and then come up the rig with your tagged flies. If you're running a Western rig, running these stoneflies first, and then dropping a free-swimming caddis larva or free-swimming caddis pupa. We are seeing some of these free-swimming caddis hatching. Not so many that we're focusing on the adult, but focusing on the larva like I just showed you. Larry's tungsten bead larva. This is net builder caddis, good representation and profile and size for that caddis. We are fishing the pupa stage of that free swimming caddis. One killer fly right now is one of our guides, Juan Ramirez, his kryptonite caddis, which has been great, and also the diving caddis, a little bit darker representation for that pupa stage. Again, we're running that larva and that pupa as our middle fly, depending on the time of day, what the caddis activity is doing as far as that free swimming caddis is concerned. And again, that free swimming caddis, I want to make that clear that that caddis is not the big Caddis Hatch. This is a preliminary sort of activity. This is a different caddis altogether than the Brachii caddis, and the Brachii caddis, like I said, we're about a week away from activity starting there most likely. Still fishing a lot of BWO nymphs, going a little bit lighter now. It seems like they're lightening up a little bit. Trigger nymph is a great fly, and fishing that in an 18, fishing most of these in 18s and 20s. The light olive 2-bit hooker, another great fly. And one that we just do really well with on this river is the crystal hunchback, and that's olive as well. As far as moving through the life cycle of the BWO, of course, you've got the emergent stage, which has been very, very productive, both in a nymph rig or running behind a dry or running kind of mid-water column. Iceberg Baetis, one of our favorites, has been very, very productive all early season. And another pattern, we seem to go a little bit darker with the emergers, do a little bit better with the darker patterns. The purple Juju Baetis, and that's a non-beadhead emerger in the purple color, has been great as well. Moving into the adult category, Bob Quigley's Hackle Stacker has been one of our go-to flies. A little bit more light olive. And then a little different variation. The Wild Turkey Baetis has been excellent as well. Get that for you. A little bit slider profile and sits down in the water. Really nice. Kind of a great dry emerger as well. So that kind of covers how we're rigging right now. Like I said, I'm going to spotlight some caddis patterns because that's not far away. We're very, very close to having excellent caddis activity, and so I want to make sure that we get people kind of tuned into that, and that way you can prepare fly-wise. You know, all of the flies that we spotlight on this program are available online for purchase at our web store at www.royalgorgeanglers.com. You can just search the fly name and find it available in 3 packs, and you know, sometimes less if they're streamers, so on and so forth. While we're on streamers, right now we're still fishing a lot of streamer patterns. We found that more tan, kind of yellowish patterns for a lead fly on a tandem rig have been doing well, like the Yellow Yummy. That's been a great pattern. You know, really, really nice lead fly. Also, Bennett's Lunch Money's been great, and that little bit darker yellow pattern is a lead fly. Still running a lot of Rick Takahashi's Mini Minnows as a trailer. Some guys are running really big stuff, like the new double Dirty Hippie in black. That's been a really popular just single fly if you want to run a single fly, and that is a tandem hooked fly there. Let's look at caddis. Now what we need for caddis is we need 50 to 55 degree water temperature. We've already seen 50s, and really for really productive Caddis Hatch activity, we need about that 55 degree window. With the warm temperatures we're experiencing this week in the 70s and even low 80s, if you can believe that, in Canyon City, and 70s in Bighorn Sheep Canyon, we're going to see that water temperature come a long way, especially because the Arkansas is very low right now and heats up fairly quickly. We most likely will see that Caddis Hatch activity begin, like I said, in the next week to 10 days in Canyon City. So plan accordingly. Remember, this is the tax day Caddis Hatch, not the Mother's Day Caddis Hatch. I want to be clear that the Mother's Day refers to the actual caddis, and it was named for a caddis on the East Coast. It has nothing to do with this river. Mother's Day sometimes is too late for the very, very good Caddis Hatch activity that we experience around Tax Day. So Tax Day is April 18th this year. Should be just great timing for great Caddis Hatch activity in Lower Bighorn Sheep Canyon. Talk a little bit about flows right now. Flows are very low, 260 CFS, and the reason for that is our upstream tail races are not releasing because BOR and parks and wildlife are holding water back in anticipation of lower than average snowpack. Right now, the water equivalent percentage of average is 83% on this river, this drainage. So we are lower than average. With the weather that we have in the long-term forecast, I don't see a lot of big heavy storms coming. So could be lower than average. Still going to be great wade fishing, float fishing in the summer, but probably lower than you expect to see in the spring. Not going to affect fishing at all. The Caddis Hatch could be stronger because of that. One thing I will say about those lower flows is sometimes the fishing is a little bit more technical in that you do need to run a little bit longer leader or smaller diameter tippet. That's all we've really seen as a difference. Still very, very productive. Let's look at some caddis patterns throughout the life cycle. As soon as the brachycentrus activity really kicks on, we focus on the full life cycle of this caddis. This caddis hatches as a darker caddis, dark olive to black. It is a cased caddis, and we will see a good section of productive fishing on the smaller caddis larvae. We're already starting to see that, but probably fish are feeding on those caddis larvae because they're eating them for the free-swimming caddis. Caddis larva, the initial stage, the nymph stage of the caddis we fish, is like this metallic larva, and that's a size 16, or this roller caddis, Shea Gunkel's pattern, size 16, much smaller than the caddis larva I showed you earlier. Okay, that's the initial life cycle stage. Then we fish the pupa, which is the emerger. Okay, and I showed you some free-swimming caddis emergers, but this is the brachy emerger. This is a beadhead pupa, so a little bit deeper in the water column. That's the prime time pupa there. And one of our favorites on this river, the petrified pupa. Okay, both beadheads fished a little bit lower in the water column or behind a dry as a dry dropper. Then when there is a lot of emergent activity during this caddis hatch, and not as many adults on the water potentially, which can be the very, very best time to catch a lot of fish during the hatch, when there's heavy emergent activity but not a ton of adults on the water. We fish a lot of non-weighted emergers, one being the deep sparkle pupa, Gary LaFontaine's, one being the swing caddis, and aptly named, this is what technique we're using. We're swinging these flies and keeping tension on the fly through the water column, sweeping the water column, and those fish are looking for that movement. Those emerging caddis really bust to the surface, and so that's what we're trying to mimic with those non-weighted emergers and weighted emergers. Next life cycle stage we have is the adult, and one of the famous patterns on this river is Larry Kingery's Better Foam Black Caddis. You can run an emerger underneath, weighted or non-weighted. It's easy to see, it floats well. Also, one of our favorites here is the Peacock Black Caddis. Okay. Then we go to our next life cycle stage, and that is the caddis egg layer. The caddis egg layer returns after at least 24 hours of mating in the willows, returns to the river. This is the female, and they oviposit their eggs. Basically, you'll see these caddis dotting the surface of the river like so. That's your egg layer. Sometimes you see them in the morning, and most times you see them in the evening. One of our very best patterns for that is the Little Hottie. That's Larry Kingery's Little Hottie caddis. One of our other favorites that's easy to see in those low light time periods in the morning and evening is the Clown Shoe caddis. Then you've got the spent caddis, and the spent caddis is the female that has dropped its egg sac or males that have fallen into the water. They're slight profile, and we fish them a lot. When you see caddis, bodies floating downstream, this is what we fish a lot. This is the partridge spent and Larry Kingery's spent, which is even a slider profile fly. Okay, so just wanted to quickly, touch on a couple different patterns for each life cycle stage. Larva, the weighted pupa, which is the emerger weighted, the non-weighted pupa, which is the emerger non-weighted, the adult, then the egg-laying caddis, and then the spent caddis. Like I said, we need to prepare now for what's going on during the Caddis Hatch. Obviously, this is a very popular time on this river. Remember, 110 miles of river and over 60 miles of public water to fish on the Arkansas. That's more than any other river in the state, top 5 in the Rocky Mountains. So you're never not going to find a place to fish, but I will tell you that April is busy, and that's for a good reason. It's because the fishing is excellent. It's off the charts. Definitely look to spend some time, multiple days on the river during April. If we can help you at all, please don't hesitate to ask us questions. Call us toll-free, 888-994-6743, or email us at info@royalgorgeanglers.com. We also do have some availability for the month of April for guided services. This is the best, way to get on a private piece of river, or, to get away from crowds. All of our private sections are not booked full for the month of April. They're getting close, but if you want to, stay on fish on a private section, get away from people during the month of April, that's, the only way to do it is with a guide. So give us a call about that if you're interested. Again, any questions about patterns, call us, email us. Again, you can purchase 90% of these patterns I've talked about on our website at royalgorgeanglers.com. Use the search window and punch in the pattern name, and we can ship anywhere. If you're on the Front Range of Colorado and tri-state area, that's 1-day shipping. Again, thanks so much for viewing. Let us know if you have questions. We look forward to seeing you in the fly shop. We are open 7:30 to 5 p.m., 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Saturday, 7:30 a.m. through 1 p.m. on Sunday. Thanks so much. Have a great day on the water.